Will Wuthering Waves succeed and be the game to finally challenge Genshin, or will it end up like Tower of Fantasy and crash and burn? Well, let's discuss that right now. So Wuthering Waves is the newest challenger. With its open world action focused gameplay, it's no wonder so many people are calling it the Genshin killer. So firstly, let's take a look at some of the strengths of Wuthering Waves that could solve some of Genshin's long-standing problems. So the biggest strength that could help Wuthering Waves to become a contender to Genshin is its gameplay. It looks so good and it plays really good. Now, Genshin's gameplay is very focused on elements, elemental reactions in order to deal damage. This is quite fun at the start, finding out the different combinations of elements and characters that work well in a team. But eventually it does feel like the same thing over and over again, with the enemies also not being that difficult to defeat. And so this is where Wuthering Waves and its action focused gameplay seems to fit in. In Wuthering Waves, while it does feature elements, the primary focus of the gameplay is the balance between using your skills and ultimates, which are called resonant skills and liberations in this game. Another aspect of the gameplay is the dodging and parrying system. Now it's this system, the dodging and parrying system, that really sets it apart. See, when an enemy attacks you, if you parry the attack at the perfect time, then the enemy will be briefly stunned, allowing you to deal a lot of damage. And also enemies have a parry meter, allowing you to whittle this down, at which point the enemy will be stunned for a long period of time, allowing you to deal even more damage. It's really good. Now what this does is it increases the skill of every fight, but also make every fight feel unique, as you'll have to learn when to parry, when not to, when to dodge. It's really fun and is definitely the strong point of the game, as well as the fact that this will be perfect for people who feel that Genshin is just too easy. And so Wuthering Waves will be able to capitalize on this market that prefers a more challenging experience, as well as again some of that casual audience from Genshin who needs a change. And this, I think, will be the key thing for Wuthering Waves' success, if they can successfully get this hardcore sort of market, but also find a way to gain the casual market. Now, other things that Wuthering Waves is seemingly doing quite well at is currently the quote-unquote in-game. They have two main modes. The Spiral Abyss-like mode called the Tower of Adversity, in which you'll go up a tower that gets progressively difficult. You know the deal, it's pretty much the same as Genshin, as well as a mode which is a roguelike mode, like the simulated universe from Star Rail, in which you kill enemies, get buffs, and, well, kill more enemies. This means that Wuthering Waves already has one more in-game mode than Genshin, woo! But now it seems really good for Wuthering Waves so far, right? Well, let's start to talk about the potential negatives that could lead Wuthering Waves into not being that successful. So firstly, we have the story. While it has been rewritten for the second closed beta, it still isn't quite as good as many would hope. Now, there is still time to improve this, as well as usually with most gacha games, the story gets better as it progresses, so maybe it's too early to speak on. Now, there's also the character designs, which aren't quite as good as Genshin's. Now, to be fair, Genshin is kind of known for its character designs, or rather Hoyoverse in general are known for their character designs, so being compared to them is already a tough battle. As Wuthering Waves' characters, while some of them do look very good, some of them not so much, and some of them, how should we say, look very inspired by Genshin. But now what about some other things? One big thing is that, as I mentioned before, while having the game's difficulty being a bit more difficult than Genshin is something I quite enjoy, this could turn off some players, especially if rewards are tied to these, let's say, difficult bosses, as some people, the casual players, may feel like they can never get everything in the game due to its difficulty, and that could turn some people off. Now there's also another problem, and it's a big one, and that's the echo system. Now, I know what you're saying, oh, they addressed these problems in their recent livestream, and yes, sort of. They addressed a few problems, but the problem is just the system itself. It's Genshin's artifact system, but a bit worse, or quite a lot worse. Well, at least for the upgrading part. The echoes themselves are really cool, and the fact that you can use them during battle is pretty crazy, but the upgrading them, the leveling them, yeah, that's where it's not so good. Now, I'm not a huge fan of these systems, as it does feel like they just put these sort of RNG house systems to make people play the game over and over, knowing that they will never get their perfect gear. It's just not that fun, at least for me. I would rather, additional game modes to spend my time in rather than this endless RNG farming. But what is the problem with this system? Well, there's a few reasons. The first is, in order to see the substats on your echo, which is your artifact, you need to first level up your echo using an EXP item from a dungeon and then use another item to see the stats. Meaning you have to actually level your echo up and then see the substats, which is much worse than Genshin. And the fact that there are already more substats than Genshin just means that the RNG to get your perfect gear is even higher than Genshin's, and Genshin's artifact system is quite notorious for its bad RNG. So yeah, it's not that good, which is unfortunate. But again, they seem to be quite receptive to feedback, so maybe this will get tuned as the months go on. But yeah, that's about it. So overall, Wuthering Waves is a very promising game that does have potential. Maybe not to kill Genshin, but to contend with it. But there are glaring problems which, if left to fester, could hurt the game in the long run. And so only time will tell if Wuthering Waves is the next big thing or the next big failure. And so with that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.